Sky Hybrid Wars have officially begun! Release the pterosaurs, unleash the bats, send forth the insects, load those birds onto the slingshot, and shuck 'em at the piggies!
Well then, you know the drill, people. Instead of creating a lengthy opening scene to introduce the combatants we will be facing, I'll be boring and just show you the wings that we ultimately need to clip. Maggie, a falcon with a 300-mile-per-hour stoop, and... The arena? A diverse yet geographically small area called the Zone, populated by forests, mountains, a railway for some reason, and the open ocean. If you want a more complete rundown on how these two operate, so I do not mistranslate or exaggerate, the procedures in which these hybrids are created will be linked in the description. To get it out of the way, we are actually fighting Maggie and Valt. Check out my other hybrid video for that mistake of a fighting style. The first step in any hybrid construction is determining a base genome. Before the aerial hybrid war forced itself from the periphery of my priorities, a little creative exercise spotlighting Achillobator was flopping hopelessly with very little progress being made. That project will be renovated in the future, but let's see if this dromaeosaur can be useful here. Oh my word, this is perfect. The first thing I noticed was the lack of any expressed bite force. This is not the fault of the writer, as only part of Achillobator's upper jaw has been found. With the related Utahraptor paralleling 9,000 newtons, or 2023 freedom units, I feel it's safe to assume that Achillobator's chompers would have exerted similar force with a proportionately larger head, offering room for larger jaw muscular density. The structure of Achilles vertebrae supports the idea of an S-shaped neck, similar but not the same degree as herons and egrets. This is a feature that, with the right leverage and windup, acts as a spring to propel the head forward in a devastating peck. Supporting this structure are powerful back muscles enabled by robust cervical and dorsal vertebrae. Any excess weight that this might be perceived to bring is offset by hollow depressions that make the vertebrae look kind of like an hourglass. In a flying animal, these muscles wouldn't be as prevalent, as it is the muscles of the chest that are more useful for takeoff. Instead, they serve to make any flaps upstroke just that little bit quicker to keep our frame in the air. The pubis is yet another element that has a use case. In Achillo, unlike in many other saurian theropods, and even birds, this element creates an almost perfect right angle with the spine. Perhaps acting as one of those mass dampeners in tall towers, this orientation helps the hybrid balance for better agility both on the ground and in the air. The orientation changes how muscles attach to the skeleton, assisting mechanically. Thanks in part to the Achilles tendon used to support its sickle claw, Achillobator would have been able to maintain high speeds while running. In the hybrid, these will be used to deliver powerful snapping kicks and support its feet when grasping onto prey of any size. Maggie and Valt aren't our only competition in this war. There are plenty of people who are using Asdarchids such as Quetzalcoatlus and Hatzegopteryx for their base genomes, so it's a matter of survival, not just winning a battle. Oh, I completely forgot to mention that I will be making 2 hybrids for this challenge. A duo of animals will have to be able to coordinate as effectively as Maggie and Valt, who already display incredible synergy. When trying to find a bond to match this, I thought, why make 2 genomes when I can simply create a mated pair of the same species? Sexual dimorphism in birds is already one of their signature features, so expressing different traits in each individual not only gives them similarities enough to stick by each other in battle, but also lets me show off the versatility of a single genome. Because we're not entirely sure about Achillo's mating behavior, our second genome contributor is going to have to be something that displays monogamous mating behavior. Thankfully, my personal favorite bird brings that and more to the table. Ross's Tarraco is an iridescent blue beauty that we're using not only for its monogamy, but also for that cranial crest. The crest will be reduced slightly in the final hybrid, but will be present to add any additional support to further beak augmentations. Some aesthetic choices will be translated as well. The red wingtips add a striking color that can be used as intimidation, and iridescent feathers act as camouflage. While not under direct sunlight, these feathers are completely jet black. The preferred habitats of these two will be the mountains and forests of the zone, offering plenty of shadows to hide in. Spending the majority of their time in the trees, Turacos have another adaptation that I will be using. Their feet are semi-zygodactyl, meaning that the fourth digit can rotate forward and backwards. This added dexterity provides many new ways to perch and grasp, which gives the hybrid effective terrain traversal and a layer of unpredictability that Maggie and Valt will have to watch out for. Especially with the inclusion of our next contributor, the Stellar's Sea Eagle. Adding on top of the robust beak of the Turaco, Sea Eagles give us a hooked beak specifically designed for fish disembowelment. Sea Eagle's short toes paired with its piercing talons and the Achilles legs mean that our hybrid's grip strength and piercing power are off the charts. Food fights in the wild sea eagles utilize their wings as well as their talons and beak. Applying this to the hybrids, during a grapple, any opponent is going to be thrashed with powerful wing beats on top of sustaining deep puncture wounds. Any attempt to escape would only be met with further aggression. It is through this assault that the loggerhead shrike takes center stage. The Tomnial tooth this infamous songbird has means that not only does our hybrid's beak have yet another augmentation, this is our ace in the hole insta-kill weapon. The purpose of the tooth in shrikes specifically is simple: snap the spinal cord. After this killing, or worse yet, paralyzing blow, the prey would then be dragged away and impaled for safe storage. When bringing Valt and Maggie into the equation, their shared vulture DNA means that they would never forego one of these corpses as a free meal. They have to choose carefully though, because our territorial hunter could be lurking nearby. I said earlier that we'd be utilizing the powerful bond of a mated pair, but for that there needed to be some compromise in the genome. The male, the one that I've been discussing primarily so far, serves as DPS, if you will. The female would act as support. The implementation of Frigate Bird felt appropriate as it added to the territorial nature of both creatures already, but I was not the one to design the female in the end. Because of this, the second researcher of this endeavor will be discussing the sexual dimorphism displayed in our hybrids and the inclusion of the Frigate Bird. My brother, Levi Raptor.
To start, the female's beak is similar to her mate's, with some differences of course. Instead of being used to snap the neck, it being weaker than the male's, the female's beak can be used to catch food off the surface of the ocean, as well as catching smaller or medium-sized rodents.
Get in my belly!
The female is also designed with a kilobator as the base genome. While the male, he uses Stellar Sea Eagle for his wing shape, the female, however, uses Frigate Bird for her wing shape. The female's wings make her look way bigger than she really is.
Yeah, no kidding. Fitting her on the size chart took frigate forever!
This also might add some fear as she engages in combat. Ooh. Her legs are short but powerful. Once again, the Aquilbator takes hold here for the leg strength. The female may not be able to run fast on the ground, but the legs are dangerous with enough momentum. That's right, we got the Since we don't have the sickle claw like her mate, this means the kick will be more effective. The female's gameplay plan is to be a distraction to lead Valt and Maggie out to the sea, where the male can do his thing. If he gets into a pickle, into the sea. This will be good gameplay. Finally, we have the tail. Once again, the Frigate Bird comes into play for air maneuverability. Unlike the male, who uses the tail of the Aquilbator, the female benefits more from the Frigate Bird. Anyway, that's all from me. Back to you, Boskis. Hey, get out of here!
It was at this point in the recording process that I got a bit of a cold, so if my pronunciation is a little bit funky, that's why. It was here that I thought we were done. We had our hybrid scaled and named, but something wasn't sitting quite right. Sure, we had exceptional strategy, synergy, and strength, but what happens when we come across an opponent with a hide that a keratinous beak cannot penetrate? Thankfully, a little luck when researching a component raised my eyes to the savior of this genome, the homing pigeon. I won't spend a whole minute on useless who's and hear me out, and instead just explain why homing pigeons genuinely are the savior of this genome. In their upper beak lie these little iron deposits, once thought to be used for their supernatural navigation, but has since been refuted and remains that way for now. It's the fact that they are there to begin with that got me curious. In a UCL study, it was found that specialized white blood cells are responsible for distributing the iron in red blood cells back into the beak. This includes foreign blood. Pigeons don't utilize this aspect as much given that they're not exactly born to bleed, but in an active predator, this is pivotal. Short-tailed shrew gets a break here, as while we're taking a bit more of a roundabout path to implement iron into our beaks, there is no risk of iron poisoning. The beak and claws are constantly growing, shedding excess material as more iron is recycled in. A pigeon's intelligence is yet another thing we'll be using. Psychology Today lists several different ways that pigeons use that brain of theirs. They can distinguish between different artists' works, have a shocking capacity for memory, and count at a level on par with many primates. On top of that, their resilience is borderline supernatural. Being used in many wars, this is incredibly well documented. If you've heard this story before, I will keep it brief, but there was once a pigeon by the name of Cher Ami, who was able to deliver a message to Allied forces despite being shot through the chest, blinded in one eye, and having a leg hanging by only a single tendon. And with that, we've got our finished genome. But there is one more thing we have to incorporate. Names. This didn't take too long though, because since we ended up on a black color scheme, it reminded me of a particular corvid that, while popular with others, was not used here. Hugin and Munin are ravens of Norse mythology that act as Odin's messengers. That's really where the comparisons end, but it gives us a funny way to bully Google Translate into coming up with a species name. Heiling Halsbrotser, or whatever that would be if I weren't sick, means impaling neck breaker in Icelandic.
Pæling, Halsbrotser.
Hugin will be our male specimen, with a greater expression of sea eagle in his genome. Broad wings and a powerful grip strength are his signatures.
Where's my money?
Even though he spends most of his time on the ground, in trees, or perched on cliffs, he can fly between these locales quite effectively with no issue at all. Microraptor was speculated to be able to fly perfectly fine, so a longer, more Achillo-like tail will not hinder Hugin in the air at all. At this point, Team Ragnarok just feels appropriate, no? As Levi stated earlier, Munin will be our tanky support. Her shorter legs give her kicks more power, so a sickle claw is ultimately unneeded. Her greater aerial speed compensates for this though, as she can get in, cripple her target with a crushing kick, and get out while Hugin comes in to deliver the killing blow. Hugin has a height of 2 foot 3 inches when he's standing horizontally, but a 5 foot 2 inch vertical. He has a length of 8 feet 5 inches with a weight of 43 pounds, a wingspan of 11 feet, a top ground speed of 37 miles per hour, a cruising flight speed of 45 miles per hour, and a burst flight speed of 75 miles per hour. Munin is stockier, so shorter, with a height of 2 foot 10 inches, a length of 9 feet, a weight of 53 pounds, a wingspan of 28 feet, a ground speed of 16 miles per hour, a cruising flight speed of 55 miles per hour, and a burst flight speed of 125 miles per hour. All of these are intuitive guesses, so if anything sounds a little bit too atrocious, please feel free to let me know in the comments. I hope you all have a good day, and, well,